Hi all, welcome to the series of interview questions front end every day with the vision to make each day better with a smaller step. So let's see question 35 of this series. What is encapsulation in JavaScript? First, let's understand encapsulation, then we will understand in terms of JavaScript. Okay. Encapsulation, it is like it is what it means is information hiding. That is, you do not want to show certain information which is not needed by the user or which you do not, those may be a secure information which you do not want to show to the user. You want to show to the user only the information needed by him, okay, but hide all the other information. And this by default gives a integrity of, so you are able to protect the internal data by means of encapsulation. We normally implement encapsulation by having exposing public methods, that is called as accessor and mutator methods, to set and retrieve the internal values that will be mostly private, and we use public methods which only will be having access to this private variables. Okay, so what benefit we get out of it is, maybe you have a student class, student object. You are trying, the internal data is name. Okay, when I set name, I want to protect that the person, the user, the someone accessing the student object don't give the names with numbers. Okay, so since you have it is, they can't set it directly student dot name equal to name. We give public methods, accessor or mutator methods like set name. We will be able to shield that data. If they give numbers in the name, we can actually return error to them saying that numbers are not allowed in the name. So we are able to protect the internal data. Okay. So it gets shielded. That's what I mentioned. Internal details are shielded when you from the users of the object. And we are also able to change the data structures, because this data structures, internal data structures, are not exposed to them. We are free to change them because we just exposed the public methods to them, right? And it avoids namespace collision because the class has its own scope. It is not exposed. The outer scope does not change the internal scope. So there is no way there is a namespace collision, right? So it is shielded from the outer scope. When you do encapsulation, it is within a separate scope. Maybe you will be able to understand with the example next. And you know the consequences the code change may have. Maybe instance, if someone changes the global variable outside, you don't, if you have used the same thing inside, the code may break. But this is not the case when you use encapsulation, because it is completely shielded from the outer scope, right? So even if someone tries to give a special variable in the name and tries to set it, you know what will happen in your code because you have shielded that, right? Special variables you are not allowing, you will be throwing error. But in case when you don't use access and mutator and allow him to directly set the internal data, you don't know what will happen in your code, right? Correct? Because right now we have shielded, we know the code consequence which will happen. We will throw error. If they are given some special names in the name, we will be throwing error. So we know the code consequences any change could have. Now coming to JavaScript. In JavaScript, how to implement private and public? It is used in closures. Okay. Only through closures we can implement encapsulation in JavaScript. You can see it here. Closure means access to the scope in which it was created, even though it is returned. Even though this object is returned, it will be having the access to these private variables. So you can see it here. When the name has something numbers, we are just throwing the invalid name and we are not setting the name. So this is way we are shielding the private variable, the name. So this is how we do the closures. Closures, I have a separate question. We have handled it in a separate question. Please see through that. I will add it also in the description. So in the return, we are only exposing the public public variables, set name and get name, but name and expression is shielded from outside. The person who uses student cannot access set name, cannot access directly name and exp because it is shielded. Only set name and get name can access this private variable name. So you can understand we have shielded the name from the outside user. It can be accessed only by set name and get name, and in set name also we can shield it. We can make it to set the name only when it conforms to certain rules set by us, only if it has letters not numbers, as said here. Okay, so this is how why encapsulation very important. Okay, hope you could understand. Thank you guys, thank you.